All right, I call this meeting to order. Thank you. Jodine, can attendance be taken? Thank you. I suggest that the board meet in closed session under Section 8, 1D of the Open Meetings Act for discussion of real estate. Do I have a motion to move into closed session?
So moved.
Second?
Jodine will now take a roll call vote.
All right, trustee Campbell?
Yes.
Trustee Hadley?
Yes.
Trustee Solomon?
Yes.
Trustee Soba?
Yes.
Trustee Trudeau?
Yes.
We will now recede into closed session.
We'll be back.
Okay, I call this regular meeting to session at 7 p.m. Jodine, has attendance been taken?
Yes.
Okay, moving on to the approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All those opposed? That passes. Moving on to the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved?
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying yes.
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 Now the consent agenda passes. Moving on to public comments. Public comment is an opportunity for members of the public to speak before the board. Topics must be related to Ann Arbor District Library Board of Trustees or matters within their authority. To speak during the allotted time on the agenda for public comment, please fill out a public comment form with the executive assistant before the allotted time. Participants may only speak once per meeting, and each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. You can also reach the board by emailing boardcomments@aadl.org. The AADL public comment policy can be found at aadl.org/public comment. Jodine, are there any public comments?
No public comment.
Great, thank you. Moving on to communications from trustees. All trustees will have the opportunity to speak to the public. Is anything top of mind? Seeing one.
You go.
No, you were saying, I was
Oh,
speaking
you're
on
pointing
your
at me.
behalf.
Okay. I just want to say, I think my kids might be watching, and shout out to them because they got into the most recent little film fest here.
The Slapdash Remake Film Festival.
Shout out Fox and River Hadley.
Yes.
Shout out for sure.
Very impressive VFX on that submission. Yes.
We love it. Now we will move on to the financial reports with Eli.
All right. Your financial report begins on the page marked 27. So the fund balance as of February 28th was just over $10 million. That covers approximately 5.5 months of expenses. We're right in line with a fund balance or cash balance for this time of the year as opposed compared to the past several years. For our tax receipts, we've received 101.57% of the budgeted amount. So that will continue to tick up as money comes in. Again, we budget our revenue conservatively, so we typically see a little bit more tax revenue come in than we expected. And that continues to trickle in. The unassigned fund balance is $7.4 million as of February 28th, and that is in addition to the $5 million that are in the Capital Projects Fund. The current fund balance funds about 4 months of operations. Moving on to page 28. So our current revenues are 68.4% of the budget. This is the accrued revenues after 66% of the fiscal year. One thing worth mentioning is that the extra revenue, the tax accrual, each month we take 1/12 of what we expected to get, what we budgeted for. So the 12th month is always where all the extra comes in. So that will all catch up at the end of the year. So after 2/3 of the fiscal year, we are at 68%. So that's where we like to be on the revenue side. On the expenditure side, we've expended 58% of the budget after 66% of the fiscal year. And that puts us with at this moment, a surplus of about $2.2 million. I think we'll probably finish pretty close to that. Could be a little bit more if some projects wind up getting delayed that we could be spending some of the capital money. Not capital projects fund, but capital outlays on. So skipping ahead to page 30, you can see at the bottom on page 30, the balance of the capital fund stands at just over $5 million. We hope to make another contribution to that after this fiscal year is completed and we've received our audit. And on page 31, just running down, looking at which are above or below 66%. So you can see The investment gains are doing very well. We're at 290% of what we expected to budget from investment gains. Again, we budget that conservatively. We'll increase that a little bit for the next year's budget, but it's always better to have more investment gains than you were expecting than to be banking on receiving them. So overall, again, as we talked about, we're at 68% of our budgeted revenue, 66% of the way through the year. Just to run down expense lines, there's just a couple of them that are over budget. Accounting and audit is 93%, but that's one thing that's paid early in the year, to be expected. Communications is running hot, but that is also something that's paid primarily early in the year, and we'll see where that lines up as we get a little bit closer. Copier expense running just a little bit over pretty much where you want it to be. Library programming is, legal expense is pretty close as well. Operating supplies is running a little over, and that's about changes of things from that used to be in the capitalized lines and are now more operating supplies. And again, we'll make an adjustment on that. Facilities, just a tiny bit, or utilities rather, just a tiny bit over. But all in all, at 66% of the way through the year, we've expended 58% of the budgeted amount. That's what gives us that current surplus of $2.2 million. That's the financial report. Any questions?
Seeing none, we will now move on to committee reports, starting with me in the executive committee. We discussed Eli's upcoming assessment, which we started conversations for, and there'll be more updates in that regard. And the rest was spent on business that will be discussed during this meeting. Moving on to budget and finance with Lisa.
Budget and Finance Committee did not meet.
Thank you, Lisa. Scott, with facilities.
Yep, we met early in the month. We talked about the Westgate generator. So we have our contractor team in place. We've done the misdig flagging. We know where the utilities are going to be. They're not ideal, but they're workable, and we know where we're going to put it. So that's all moving forward step by step. We'll be doing some HVAC repairs in this building to kind of see what we need to do. There'll be more on that from Len, I'm sure, as we figure out what's coming up, but just to make you all aware. And then this spring, we're expecting to do a parking lot at the ALF and potentially a branch parking lot. So parking lots this spring. And otherwise, we had some conversation about the future plans for the downtown branch and how that's moving along, like we discussed in closed session. So you're all up to date on that. And that is all from us.
Wonderful. Thank you, Scott. Now we'll move on to the library report with Eli.
All right. And here comes the library report up on the screen for March 2026. First of all, for our stat of the month, today we are releasing our annual report for fiscal year 2025. That's July 1st, 2024 through June 30th of 2025. And these come out at this time of the year because this happens after the audit is completed and after the state aid report where we submit of all of our stats. So that's why they lag to this degree behind. So here's some highlights from this annual report. This will be sent to all patrons who have signed up for the newsletter tomorrow after we get this out the door. So we were open 356 out of 365 days in the 2025 fiscal year. It's always good to see that we had no additional closures other than the 9 ones that we have every year. Our number of active cardholders, very stable at just over 58,000. We typically issue about 10,000 new cards a year, so that's right on the money as well. Here's our door count. Last year, we had 1.5 million people through the door. That's an increase of 5% over the previous year. Our programs, we had almost 2,000 programs. Program attendance is up about 2%. The average attendance of a program is 68, and that's really terrific to see. One thing that was interesting as looking over this is that the high number of programs that we have in our data was in fiscal year 2019, when we had 2,549 programs, which was too many programs. We saw that the average number of attendees was much lower for all of those programs, and so we've really kind of refined that to find the things that really work. Is that still okay? Yep, okay, just making sure. All right, so our actual program attendance, as you said, ticked up a little bit. One of the biggest things is the meeting room self-bookings, 7,550 self-bookings. That does not include any same-day write-ins. That's just advance bookings for those rooms. That is up 20% over the previous year and more than double the highest number that we had pre-pandemic. Makes sense that places to have Zoom meetings is a lot more in demand than it was in 2019, right, when nobody had heard of Zoom. So that's always good to see. Also, room reservations is up 15% over prior year. And Moving on to the next slide. So we had 15.5 million page views across the year. That is up 20%, but remember that we discovered about halfway through the year that there was some anomalous traffic in there. We report the numbers that we recorded because it's not really possible to kind of retroactively record that. And while this is a metric that we report on, it's not really a key performance indicator because it's really hard to tell what percentage of this traffic is even meaningful. But that's the number, 15.5 million. The number of videos about the same after it kind of stabilized post-pandemic. So most of our big programs are streamed live, and that's what most of those are. All right. So here's our circulation checkouts, about 4.5 million checkouts and renewals across the system. 1.5 million of those were for kids and teen materials, and 3 million of them were for adult materials. That's down a little bit. We are really seeing the numbers of disc-based media continuing to fall, to be expected, but print demand remains pretty strong. And overall collections there, just that's the number of items in each collection, which represents about 500,000 items that are available for patrons to check out across AADL, all locations, and all formats. And then here's the financials, which is just what we've been reporting on every month, and that's where you can see that about $2+ million surplus between those 2 years that was moved into the capital fund at the end of the year. So that's the annual report. Any questions about the annual report that will go out to all patrons, please?
I had a question about the YouTube, maybe 2 slides before
Yeah.
this. So how do live streams from events factor into those statistics or not?
Those are almost exclusively live streams from
Oh,
events.
okay.
And then later views of them. There are a small number of videos that we post that are not a live video of an event, a few of them. But I would guess probably about 40 of those 340 are things that are recorded and posted to YouTube. Most of them are live events.
Okay, great, thanks.
Any other questions? All right, another great year at the library. All right, so moving on, upcoming events. April 18th, Record Store Day from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. at the downtown library. We'll have DJs spinning all day long, pinback buttons that you can make, and the lobby full of vendors selling used records and gear. And we do have a small number of experimental Record Store Day slip mats that we produced. Library branded slip mats. So that's a fun thing we were able to make. April 19th, Gardening and Farm Fest, 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. at the downtown library. That's artisans and farmers selling their wares, information from local farms and CSAs, that's community-supported agriculture, heat press totes and hands-on crafts, and presentations on growing mushrooms, bonsai, and gardening with deer. So that is our next big expo weekend, April 18th and April 19th coming up. Hope to see you all there. Here's an event recap. We celebrated 20 years of Pittsfield Branch on March 21st with cookies, button making, and commemorative bookmarks. The occasion was also honored with a signed tribute from Congresswoman Debbie Dingell that she read into the congressional record. Pittsfield Branch first opened on March 20th, 2006. We'll celebrate another milestone in September when we mark 10 years of the new Westgate Branch, which opened on September 6, 2016. So happy birthday to Pittsfield Branch, and thank you to everyone who came to celebrate with us. Here's AADL in the community. The AADL participated in U of M Zero Waste Week scavenger hunt and helped their challenge grow to be the first U of M Zero Waste event with 1,000 participants or more. 1,215, more than doubling their goal of 600 participants. And it was something where you could come to our door and scan the QR code and participate in that event. And that was very cool. Always happy to help out our local partners on this issue. Here's a wonderful story from the archives. AADL received a Facebook message from a man in Scotland. I live in Stonehaven in Scotland. My dad, George Sutherland, was born and brought up in Phillipstown, a village nearby. His family were shale miners. Around 1931, when he was about 11, he and his pal Sam Breeden were playing at the beach in Blackness. They dug a big hole, the tide came in, and they were drowning. An American Boy Scout named Henry Aquinto, visiting relatives, saved their lives. My father's tongue was stuck down his throat, and he stuck a hat pin in it and pulled it out. I found this picture of Henry and one of my dad giving him a presentation in Linlithgow. It was a well-known event at the time. My dad went on to serve in the British Army in Italy, Monte Cassino, and Anzio with American troops. Henry Vincent Aquinto attended St. Thomas, went to U of M, and was an Ann Arbor City Council person for Ward 3 from 1959 to 1963, also serving on the Housing Commission in the 60s. He served as a manager of industrial relations at the Wayne Assembly Plant of the Ford Motor Company's Mercury Edsel Lincoln division. So it was a fun story from the archives that started from someone who wanted to know more about it on Facebook. All right, here's a nice bonus for AADL Collections. Part of our ongoing partnership with the libraries in Gangdong-gu in Seoul, we recently received a shipment of many books and materials from South Korea donated to AADL from the Gangdong-gu Library, from the Gangdong-gu government, I should say, which we plan to add to the collection in the coming months for patrons to check out and enjoy. So this is just a sneak preview of what they've provided us with. So a lot of books, kids' books, adult books, DVDs, all kinds of great stuff. And with that has to be cataloged and stickered and all that stuff. But we wanted to put it all together and let everyone see all the things we've gotten. So those will be coming to the collection in the near months, and thanks to everyone from Gangdong-gu who made that happen. All right, here's our staff spotlight. This is Heidi Pratt. She's our HR staffing coordinator. She's worked at AADL for 9 years. She started in 2017 as a part-time desk clerk. In 2018, became a full-time desk clerk. In 2023, became an HR associate. In 2024, became our HR staffing coordinator. And here's what she says. My employment history includes being a self-employed potter, a yoga instructor, and a variety of administrative assistant positions. I think it's pretty much known that I have a passion for fiber arts, which includes knitting, crochet, and a variety of needlework crafts. I've also enjoyed playing the piano since a very young age, and I currently practice a set of Nociens by Eric Satie. Over the next year, I hope to become more accomplished on the alto recorder as well. Working at AADL has been a wonderful experience. I still remember the phone call offering me the part-time desk clerk position, and I was thrilled. While I enjoyed my time in that role and miss working the desk, I'm very happy to be a part of the HR team at AADL. I'm working through a certification prep course, which I plan to complete this spring. Even though I work here, I visit on my days off. Libraries have always been the place I like to be, so thank you to Heidi. Here's our mention of the month from Team 830, the Rat Pack. That's the Huron High School First Robotics team. Sending rat love to the AADL Graham for their loan of the practice field to all the local robotics teams. And this is hot and heavy time of their season. Many of them are having their first competitions and having to scramble back to the field to try to improve their robot for the next week. And always happy to have the Rat Pack on the field at the ALF. Here's our compliment of the month, part 1. And this is a lovely note we received. I'm going to read it here. Dear Jacob and AADL Tournament of Tomes. TOT is our Tournament of Tomes, which is kind of like a Battle of the Books, only cooler. Tournament of Tomes organizers. Our team had a blast reading, studying, and competing in the Tournament of Tomes. We wanted to thank you for such awesome programming and all the work designing and hosting the tournament. It introduced our team to some new favorite books, rekindled a love of reading for some of us, and influenced our wider circle of friends to pick up Tournament of Tomes titles. Thank you, Tournament of Tomes wizards, the Soya Boys. And thank you to Jacob Gorski and all the staff who worked on this wonderful event that has really grown and had a lot of excited patrons involved in it each year. Compliment of the month, part 2. A patron dropped by Westgate to pick up tax forms and wanted to express his appreciation for being able to access materials using BARD. And that is the audio and visual, it's an application that you can run on your phone that helps you get materials directly. His eyesight is failing, and he says BARD has been a blessing, and it's a really great service. Once again, if there's anyone in your life who has any trouble reading standard print, please get them signed up for the Library for the Blind and Print Disabled at AADL, because it is a terrific service and wonderful, and it applies to anyone throughout the county, not just AADL district residents. So it's a compliment at the desk at Westgate on March 12th. Compliment of the month, part 3. Thank you so much for continuing to support foreign language children's books. The separation of Chinese simplified and traditional has made it so much easier to browse the books. I especially want to thank you for getting Cantonese specific books. There are many Cantonese speakers in the world, but it is an at-risk language. We have a small community of parents here in the Ann Arbor area trying hard to pass on the language. With the recent tariffs, it has been very hard, nearly impossible to buy Chinese books. Wow. Thank you for all you do. So we love to hear that, and thank you to our selectors, who it is challenging to collect materials in a language that you do not speak. And Lucy does a lot of that work. Lucy Rortig on our staff, and that is terrific. So, and this is where where all that value comes in for the community. Complaint of the month. I am very appreciative of the splendid library system we enjoy here in Ann Arbor. That's how a complaint ought to start off, right? And I definitely support the library's efforts to open up their spaces to a variety of different experiments. But a drum circle, as has recently appeared at the Westgate branch, isn't that pushing the experiment a bit far? Seems like material for an episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm. So I responded to this patron. One thing is the specific drum circle event I looked and it has happened 6 times over the past 11 years. So it's not a frequent thing, but the Westgate program room is kind of poorly suited to a very noisy event, because especially if you've booked one of the meeting rooms right next to it, there's kind of no getting away from it because the sound insulation above the ceiling is not great. So I did tell him when I received his email, I started hearing the closing credits music. when conceiving how this experience was for him. But I did tell him that we'll be looking at other venues in the future when this, other venues in the library system that are better suited to very noisy events for the future.
This is my favorite complaint so far.
Yes. So thank you, Tim. And that's my report. Any questions?
The record store day
Yes.
sleeve, I don't know that term you used.
A
What is-
slip mat. It's
Yes.
the felt thing that you put under your record on top of your turntable.
Really?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm glad I asked, I had no idea.
Okay. Any other
Incredible.
questions?
Seeing none, we will move on to old business, and we will stay with Eli for an update on the redevelopment of the downtown library.
Okay, so we've got a couple different things going on. The main thing at this point is working on the transfer agreement with the city of Ann Arbor, which we hope to see come before council in the next weeks to months. That continues to move forward, and we will keep you updated. Once city council has agreed on a transfer agreement, it will come before this body for you all to approve. So that work continues. We're also working on finding some housing expertise to help develop in the months leading up to the RFP, which we plan to issue later this year, to kind of inform the library program that we received a couple of months ago, to have that integrate better with the things that a housing development might need. So that work is underway, and we will continue to keep you posted.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Now we will discuss the acquisition of the Ann Arbor Observer.
Yes, our Lenfest Institute consultant has been talking to Observer staff and continues to do that work, and that continues to move forward. So we will have some updates. I will say I've been invited by the Internet Archive to participate in an event that they're having this summer about libraries and local journalism and how libraries can support local journalism. And while I warned them, this has not happened. This is a thing we are still working on. The potential is what's interesting to them. So I'll be attending that event in June to talk about that. That's a part of a national journalism conference that's happening, and that is at the Internet Archive's expense. So that'll be coming up as well.
With no further old business, Jodine, are there any public comments?
No public comment.
Seeing none, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved?
Second?
All those in favor, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All those opposed? This meeting is now adjourned.